Authorities are piecing together details about Friday's fatal shooting at LAX, including how the 23-year-old suspect, Paul Ciancia, behaved in the week prior to the incident. Ciancia is charged with murder of a federal officer and commission of violence in an international airport. Here with more is Times staff writer Kate Mather. Kate, let's start with the suspected shooter's condition. What's the latest?
Right, well, we just heard from the hospital where he's at, and he remains in critical condition this morning. He has been under heavy guard in recent days, as authorities are definitely keeping a close eye on him, even though he's still in a hospital room.
And he was charged over the weekend.
Right. Federal prosecutors filed those charges of murder and the commission of violence at an airport on Saturday. The murder charge is for the TSA agent Gerardo Hernandez, who is that 39-year-old agent who's the agency's first to die on the line of duty.
And then what can you tell me about some of these troubling texts that Ciancia allegedly sent his sister and the police response to that?
Right. So I spoke to a police chief in New Jersey, which is he's the chief of the town where Ciancia's father and brother lives. And the chief told me that his family had contacted him Friday, it was afternoon on the East Coast, but basically they had received these troubling text messages from the suspect. The chief described them as messages with indications that he wanted to harm himself. So the family and that police chief got in touch with LAPD. A couple officers went to his apartment to try to do a welfare check and see if he was okay. He wasn't at home at the time, and then it was just a little bit later that the chief and the family had learned what had happened at LAX.
And what about his roommates?
His roommates were home. My understanding from what this police chief told me is his roommates were home at the time that the LAPD officers went to check on him, but those roommates were being interviewed over the weekend to try to piece together a little bit more of if they noticed anything unusual in the days before.
Okay, and on Friday, in the flurry of reports, trying to find out about Ciancia, it was reported that Ciancia himself was a TSA worker and that he was shot at some point. Can you talk a bit about that?
Right. Well, he was shot when police took him.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a situation like this where there's a lot of information coming in quickly. A lot of different agencies involved, so a lot of different sources are being, consulted and cited. But what we know now is that he was not a TSA agent, and obviously, he's in critical condition, so he was not killed when he was taken into custody.
And then another point I want to talk about is authorities, are continuing to look for a motive. There was a note that was found in Ciancia's bag. Any indication into what a potential motive could be?
That's something that authorities are still looking into. Of course, with a situation like this, everyone wants to know why. But as far as that note, the federal complaint that authorities released or unsealed on Saturday. Basically, that complaint alleges that authorities found a note in Ciancia's bag. And that note, they said, made it very clear that he wanted to target TSA agents. The note allegedly said he wanted to kill multiple TSA agents and, quote, instill fear in your traitorous minds. And so authorities have kind of pinpointed there was this direct there was this direct target of the TSA agents, but as authorities are combing through their investigation and talking to friends and family, they're still trying to answer that question of why.
Okay, thank you for your insights, Kate. For more on the investigation into the LAX shooting, stay with us at latimes.com and at LA Now on Twitter for the latest updates.